All right, Ian, we got a Patreon poll topic. Ian, how do you access a Patreon poll?
Patreon.com/CU podcast.
And Ian unfortunately had a delay. His hangout is going to hopefully happen this Sunday.
That was the second delay, and I'm still in a shitload of pain, but I have a TENS unit now, and hopefully I'll be able to be there. So.
Okay, and Pat wrote about Star Trek 3, The Search for Entertainment. I did a long-form Star Trek write-up. I finally saw Star Trek 3. It was not that good. I'll just say that. And
they always say it's the evens, not the odds, right?
Yes, but I always heard Star Trek 3 was the exception. It's not the exception. It's not good. Leonard Nimoy directed it. I found out later. He's in the movie for like 3 seconds himself. But yeah, check it out. It's on patreon.com/CU podcast. But we do a Patreon poll every week.
We do.
In third place, does Resident Evil 4 need a remake? No, we don't want to hear about that. In second place, a deep dive into nope. And in number one, Tales from Pat's Neighborhood, or really Tales from Pat's Neighborhood, Pat's fight with Jeff. I'm not sure I ever told this whole story on the podcast before, or I give little pieces and blips here and there about it. So we're going to talk about Pat's fight with Jeff. This goes back to grade school, Ian. This would have been spring of 94. And I know the specific date for a reason, which I'll get to, which I'll bring up right here. So this would have been, it was in May 11th, 1994. And later you're going to ask me, how the hell do I know that? Anyway, so this would have been, 2 days after my birthday? Really? So I had a friend named Jeff, who Jeff was not like a friend. Usually when you're in grade school, K to 8, you know the same people. For mostly 90% of the same kids go through that span of time, right? Jeff came about, I want to say 4 to 5 years earlier. It was about 10, 11. And I met Jeff originally because I did Little League. I did Little League, and Jeff had like the hardcore dad that like really pushed him. And, you know, he had the batting gloves. He had the expensive aluminum bat. When I couldn't even afford aluminum bat, I had like a freaking old Louisville Slugger, bat. And his dad was kind of, he was always like I was on Jeff's team like 3 years, and Jeff was an above average player, but had dreams of being a baseball player. But his dad pushed him, and his mom was really nice. And I became friends with Jeff. And he was kind of awkward, Jeff. His parents were kind of older looking back. Like his mom had just like, I always remember this. His mom had like white hair. I mean, like white hair. So it was always like, I always felt like either, Jeff's mom had him at the cutoff of being able to have a kid, or he was adopted, but he looked like his dad. So there was something that was there. But Jeff was kind of awkward, but he was a happy-go-lucky kid. And so, he was like on the periphery of being within certain social groups and friends, while you're looking up something. Totally unrelated to what I'm saying. But anyway, so stop looking up 80s actresses. So Jeff and I got along.
Now you just put something in my head.
So anyway, I don't know what it is. So Scream Queens. Anyway, so Jeff and I got along pretty well. When I was younger, though, I was weird, not a chameleon, but I got along with almost all the different cliques of kids. There was like kind of the jock group, and I kind of knew a few of those kids. There was the asshole kind of more bully, aggressive kids, and I kind of got along with them. And then there was like the more like moderate kids, and I got along with them. And so I talked to everyone, was mostly friends for everyone. But yeah, I was trying to get bullied, and I was made fun of too, like everyone else, every now and then, because I was, thick but quick. I was chubby, I was fat, I was husky, even back then. But Jeff, at some point in time, he got a little more weird. As a friend, because he would I guess he was lonely, and he didn't have the same sort of groups of friends like I do. Like I could ride my bike and hang out with Kevin,
right?
Like he was like a 10-minute ride away,
an old Kevin,
or hang out with with Joey, who was like like he was like a quick car ride. Right? Jeff was a little more off the beaten track. So Jeff started calling me more and more, and he was annoying. When you're 13, 14 years old, anything can become annoying. He would call me up on a Saturday night saying, "Hey, you want to come over and play video games like at 8:30 at night or 8 o'clock at night?" It was like sort of weird. He was an only child, so you kind of expect that. Okay, maybe he's lonely. Maybe his parents he doesn't get along with. Something was going on there. But then I don't know. Something just turned where he just became annoying even in school. And I'll never forget this. I never had crushes in school. Just about never had crushes, except for in first grade. There was a girl that looked just like she came off of a can of Swiss Miss Cocoa, blonde hair and freckles, What happened to you, Katie? Anyway, and then in 8th grade, so let's say 7th grade, I had a crush on a girl named Joanna. Really cute girl. She had really nice fat Polish cheeks, and she was a sweetheart, a nice smile, brown hair. And they would seat you in class to break up the talkers, Ian. I don't know if this you would sit next to a girl. So they did that. And so one time I was next to Joanna for like they did it every 2 months. I was like, oh, this is a great thing ever. And we got along okay. So Jeff, I guess, noticed that I had a crush on her, and he started teasing me about it, but in front of Joanna. Like after class before you go to your school bus. And when you're like 13 years old, that's like, you might as well just fucking cut my dick off at that point. Like that's the worst feeling in the world, to be called out on something like that. Hey, Pat, but I think Jeff deep down, I don't know if he was more annoyed at me because I wasn't hanging out with him as much anymore or what, but he started doing these things more and more to me. And I didn't like it, especially when it's the only girl I like. And, and like, what are you doing? You're humiliating me. So things sort of came to a weird head. And this was someone I was kind of friends with. So we had 2 lunch periods at my Catholic school. 2 lunch periods. It was like almost like alternating. So it was like K, 2, 4, 6, 8 was one, and then like 1, 3, 5, 7 was the other. So literally half the school was at my lunch period. We ate lunch, say like maybe 11 o'clock in the morning. And we had the teachers all in the back. They all gathered in the back. And all the tables, it was like set up like bingo. For the bingo nights they had, it was like one of those cafeterias that were like kind of in the basement, but off to the side.
Yeah.
I'll just say, you know what I'm saying? So it was literally like the 8-foot tables in long columns. Here's the one class. We had 2 classes in 8th grade, 8A and 8B.
Probably
8A,
did it at my Catholic school too.
This column, 8A, 8B. And you weren't supposed to mingle, but people did.
Yeah.
Here's 6A, 6B, 6C. Here's 4. So we're like 12 to 15 columns there. So Jeff was, at this particular lunch period, Jeff was sitting across to me to my left, and then Rob and Hughie were the only other people to the right across from me. And Rob was an asshole. Rob used to pick on me, but he got better more 7th, 8th grade. He like calmed down a bit, but he was still a jerk. Sure. In general. He used to make fun of me on the bus. He used to make fun of me in front of other kids, which I'll get into why that's important later. So I was still pissed at Jeff for humiliating me in front of Joanna. I felt humiliation, and I felt like, what is this kid doing? Like, this kid's turned on me. Really, the past month, this kid's turned on me. Now he really annoys me. So I don't know what caused it, but this is what happened. This is the lead up to the fight. Rob goes, "Hey, Pat, can you reach the trash can?" It was like that's how he talked. He talked like this with his braces. He was like, he looked and sounded like Beavis, kind of. So the trash cans were at the end of these columns, right? Basically. So it would have been to my right. Jeff was to my left in front of me. Rob was also to my right in front of me. So for some reason I was closer to the trash can. I go, "Hey, Pat, can you reach the trash can?" And went to hand me like his brown bag, and I went over to I'll never forget this. I went over and tapped Jeff's sweatshirt, and I said, "Yes, I can," as in, "You're trash," and that sent Jeff off for some reason. So what did Jeff do, Ian? How did he respond? This is how he responded. He got up with bragged about that his mom must have been in town, used to make him homemade, almost like Elio's pizzas. He got up, threw his sloppy ass pizza right across my face and chest onto, I'll never forget this, it was my sweatshirt. It might have been gym day where you wore sweats to school. If not, no, I don't think it was gym day. I was just wearing, I had my you were allowed to wear a sweatshirt of your school. You had to buy your school sweatshirt.
Right.
Fucking oregano, sloppy ass pizza sauce all over my chest. And this was loud because he got up and he threw it. So now, it's not a commotion yet, but the other 8th grade class, they all turn and look. I know, so at least the spotlight's on me now. And I'm sitting there like, okay, what do I do quickly? If I tell you this, I look like a chump. He's already annoyed me up to this point.
Right.
What do I do? So okay, let's see where this goes. I get up. By the way, I never got in trouble in school. I never got sent to the principal's office. I was rarely yelled at by teachers. I was a good straight A student at this point. Wearing my thick glasses with my chub hanging out, and my George Clooney haircut at the time. Like that was the Roman haircut, whatever popped at the time. I get up, everyone is watching me. I mean, like you can hear a pin drop. Like the girls are on a separate section, and the guys are in a separate section. I walk. It was kind of awkward because like I'm all slathered up with this sauce, and we had these 8-foot tables that were connected together, and I was like 6 of them deep. I had to walk like 40 feet down, slowly, turn the corner, come back to the other side. And Jeff was standing up. At the time, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I had to do something or else I look like a chump at this point. So I remember this. I pushed Jeff once. He didn't do anything. I pushed him aggressively again against like the seats. He then swung and hit me. I can't remember this day if it was a punch or a slap. But it was to the face, and I blacked out, unfortunately. And now it's all flashes of what happened. I remember throwing one punch, maybe a second, to his face. He went down. And at that point, all I remember is that 7 people dragged me off of him because I was pounding him on the ground. Like I would have potentially really hurt this kid.
Right.
I literally blacked out. And I'll get into why that was really bad later. Literally, kids, what I heard later from who dragged me off them were kids from the other class that literally jumped the table to drag me off them. And obviously, at that point, I was crying because, like, you have adrenaline and what the fuck just happened. I only got into like maybe 4 or 5 fights as a kid. So, like, and plus, I knew I was going to get into big trouble. So the teachers obviously saw it. They were in the back, and it was a huge commotion. Half this fucking school saw it. I beat the shit out of this kid in front of half the school. This is the worst case scenario for getting into trouble. I gotta be made an example of.
Right.
So the 8th grade teachers brought us out, and I was crying. We go upstairs to the nurse's office and to check on him. He had bruises all over his head.
Ooh.
I got some shots, and I gave him a fucking aspirins.
Yeah.
So we had a nun, since we had a nunnery right there. We had some nuns as teachers, and we had a nun as our principal. And she was a nice nun. She was like one of the happy-go-lucky more nuns, not the ones that would still slap your wrist with rules. That didn't happen in our school, but we had those teachers from that era that at that point were like 80 years old, still in the school in the 90s. That would like really wrap your hands and abuse you. So I'll never remember this. We were in the principal's office. Jeff goes in first, and Jeff gets talking to, and she said to him, I remember listening to this, even the door closed, he goes, so I heard you got in a few hits on him, huh? To Jeff, who got one hit on me that I blacked out, by the way, and then talked for like 5 minutes. He comes out, and then me and Jeff at this point were like, once you fight when you're boys, you're usually cool after that.
Yeah, it's usually over.
It wasn't like bragging, like, hey, I kicked the shit out of you. It's
Yeah.
like traumatic, and it's an explosion of testosterone, and then it's out of you, right? I walk in then to the principal, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. She fed the same line to me as a joke relaxer. So I heard you got a few shots in. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you just said that to the kid in front of me. You can't reuse the same material on me. What's going on here? So I don't remember much from that conversation, but I do remember that she said, you will be suspended for 3 days. That was a huge fucking deal.
Yeah.
No one really got suspended at my school. Like, it happened like once every 3 years at my school.
In our schools, kids were always getting suspended for fighting.
Oh, they were? Even when you were in grade school?
Middle school. Yes.
Okay.
Starting at like 6th, 7th, 8th.
Was that public?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was a big deal at a Catholic school.
Sure.
Like, one kid got suspended for forearming a kid in the face, like a running start, and forearmed a kid in the face and like fucking broke part of his tooth. He was suspended, but it was so rare this happened. So like my dad was out of work at a time. I remember that. So they called my parents, obviously. Didn't say much to Jeff after that. Didn't say, I might have said I'm sorry. I don't remember that. But I was suspended for 3 days. And at that point, it wasn't known. Like, some suspensions are like, you get zeros for everything while you're suspended. You hear that bullshit? It's like you punish the kid even more, which doesn't make any sense. Our suspensions were you're still allowed to do, work from home. And then you come
Yes.
back. So they just want to separate you. They want to show punishment, and they separate you.
Yes.
They can't just give you detention for getting into a fight in front of half the school. Literally half the fucking I felt bad little kindergarten kids have to see, or little first graders, or what have you. So called my dad. I'll never forget this. This goes to the soul of my dad. He didn't ask really like, like all he asked was like, "Oh, how you feeling?" He had, "Did you start it?" That's the first thing my dad asks. And fortunately, I was like, technically, no, I didn't start it. The pizza thing, yeah, I touched him and said you're trash, but that didn't call for a response of throwing pizza across someone's fucking face and chest, you know. Yeah. So I said, no, I didn't start it. And he said, okay, fine. So my dad didn't punish me. So my dad picked me up. I got my teachers had my plans for the next few days, and the kids were shocked because I was like the good student, like almost goody two shoes kid that beat the hell out of someone.
Right.
So my reputation after this changed. Like people were like, wow, Pat, you're a cool kid. But I didn't want that. I didn't feel good about this. I didn't feel good about it because Jeff was like wrong place, wrong time. He was not the proper target for this beatdown.
Sure.
It should have been someone like Rob, who used to make fun of me and made me cry like a few years before. It should have been someone like Joey, the little punk who I used to be friends with, became a bully because he had a Napoleonic complex and used to push me and other kids around. I should have taken this out on one of those fucking bully assholes. So I felt horrible after the fact about that. I didn't take any glee into coming back to school and being like people, like teasing Jeff a little bit for getting his ass kicked or putting me up on a little pedestal because I beat someone down because I blacked out.
Right.
And to this day, like I want to apologize to Jeff for doing that because you weren't the proper target. There was like 4 other kids that deserved that beat down way more than you ever did by that. But you threw the pizza at me, so I had to do something. Like, there was a little over the line there. But the reason I know the date of the fight is because The Crow came out.
Oh.
So my dad said, "Are you okay?" This is like one of the few times my dad, I guess, I have good memories of like my dad being like sentimental or knowing how bad I felt about something. Unfortunately, was that he said, "Oh, okay, it's okay, it's so fine. I'll go take you to see The Crow, a nice violent R-rated movie, by the way. But I'll take you to see it." And so I'll never forget that. I'll never forget like that's that's what happened there. And I only got into 4 fights before as a kid. I never felt good after any of them. I beat up one kid when I was about 12 that insulted my sister. And I never defended my sister's honor. But for some reason, I felt like this was a time to do it. And I beat some kid down when I was 12. But I wasn't like a fighter. But like I had this sort of like it built up for years and years and then it went off. And unfortunately, Jeff, I'm sorry you were the focal point of that because that was not cool. It was not cool. I could have done some damage if the kids didn't jump over the fucking tables. And I don't know what Rob didn't stop me. Rob was right next to him. Rob was kind of an instigator. Fuck you, Rob. Rob's and Kevin's. I don't know what Kevin thought about the fight at the time. I was kind of on the outs with Kevin at that point in time. We weren't close friends anymore because I figured out, of course, Kevin was making fun of me behind my back at parties. Kevin is the worst. I'll find you out. I know your last name. I'm gonna go on Facebook, Kevin. See what's going on. Ian, do you have any stories like that where you just kind of snapped and just sort of like gave? Like I said, I felt bad. I did not feel good.
Most fights that I was in like 4 or 5 between middle school and high school. Middle school. I was in 3 in middle school. I was not in any in high school. Good story. I was able to look at 47 pictures of Phoebe Cates.
I'm pouring my heart out, Ian. I'm giving you a piece of myself, and you're looking up. I know Phoebe Cates is lovely. What happened to Phoebe Cates? She's married to Kevin Kline. She didn't come back.
She married Kevin Kline. She
retired.
She was in a movie in 2001 with her kids. One of her kids now has a musical career.
You're literally just looking up 80s actresses.
You said 80s actresses.
Meredith Baxter Burney.
So I said, sure, why not? I'm going to look up Phoebe Cates.
One of the biggest scenes ever in movies, coming out of the pool in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah,
taking off her top, like that's the most iconic scenes ever in a horny sex teenage comedy there, which they filmed part of it right here, just a little bit north of here. Really, that's what you are to look up pictures.
She's cute.
Yes, to put it lightly. Phoebe Cates, my God.
Yeah,
she was a sex icon when she was like 20 years old in the 80s, and then I think she was done acting by like the mid 90s. She was done.
Yeah, she was. That's what the Wikipedia article said.
Okay. Oh, I might have seen Crow the week after it came out. So it was either May 11th or May 18th. Maybe I saw it the weekend. It was definitely the Friday. I remember it was a Friday. We went to the Perth Amboy Cinemas, one of the only big multiplexes I had, where it was like off next to Razzmatazz in Perth Amboy. There's like 15 people that are like, yeah, I remember that. Anyway, sorry. It's also where I saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's where I saw Twins. Yeah, it was a weird summer too.
Did you see me up on the 2 wheels? Twins.
That was on TV like 3 weeks ago when I watched it. It's not a bad movie.
Did you see me up on the 2 wheels?
It's actually not a bad movie, Twins.
I couldn't fucking watch it when I was younger, but I mean, it was just boring too. I'd probably like it if I watched it now.
I saw it in theaters and I remember like, I just enjoyed it. That was like the first like, hey, Danny DeVito's this funny little. Danny DeVito always seemed like he was 65 years old even back then.
Yeah, he did.
Back then he was like 35.
I know, it's crazy.
Isn't it? It's like one of those guys.
When he started being on It's Always Sunny, I started paying attention. I'm like, this guy's been the same age for fucking 20 years.
But he was only like 50 years old when he first appeared. Now he's been on Sunny for like 14 years. So now he's like in his mid 60s.
Well,
now
he's finally the age I always assumed he was.
And that's still going strong. Always Sunny, like 15, 16 years later. It's amazing. Sorry, any other comments about tales from past childhood? More so.
No, we're done.
We're done for that.
We're
sorry, Jeff. But don't throw someone sloppy. It wasn't cooked. If it was cooked, the sauce wouldn't have splattered as much as it did. I mean, it splattered a little bit, huh?
Yeah. No, just.
Would you stop?
Sorry.
Would you stop virtually jacking off to Phoebe Cates in your head right now? What are you doing?
Just the fashion she's got going on here is that pink number is a little something.
A little something.
Yeah.
You know how many boys she made into men in the 80s? What do you? A little something.
Probably.